7. Does that sound good to everybody? No? Okay.
Oh, thank you, Leanne.
Call to order the Groveland Township regular board meeting for November the 9th, 2020. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You want me to have Danielle or Danielle? Okay. Danielle, would you take a roll call, please?
Bob Tacoma,
I'm here.
Patty Dack, present. Shelley Kidd,
She's excused.
Jim Christopher,
Here.
Gina Musarelli.
Here,
Emma.
I think there's a little time delay on the
Yeah.
way over here. Yeah.
We got you, Gina. Okay. Is to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, and everybody should have a copy of it. I don't have any changes or additions to it, so unless somebody has a question or comment, a motion to approve, you know. For a second? Okay, any other comments from the board?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Let's wait for it to catch up. All opposed? Okay, thank you. And then everybody should have your fire board minutes meeting from the October 19th board and also the regular township board. Are there any questions or comments on those? I know that Danielle showed them to me the other day, and I went over a couple of minor changes and okay to me.
No questions.
Would be in order to approve them as accepted. Any other questions or comments from
Second.
a second?
Who wants to-
Oh,
I can second.
supported? Okay.
Well, if we're on delay, Gina might have.
That's okay, you got it to the point.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Very good.
That was for the township minutes and the fire minutes, right?
Yes, both. Next is the financials. Patty, are there any budget amendments?
No, not right now. And yeah, no budget. Let me go to the council.
Sounds good.
So the council totals for 101 were in the amount of $265,758.94.
A bit bigger than normal.
Yeah. I'll let it be known that $231,000. Oh, gosh, now you've messed me up.
I'm sorry.
$231,190 of that was for the Barron Road project.
First half payment.
So, that was for 101, and for the fire department, the amount was $26,026.90.
Right.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
Not, Danielle, would you take a roll call vote on it? It's a
Bob
lot.
Tacoma,
Yes.
Yes.
Shelley Kidd, oh, she said it. Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Gina Musarelli.
Yes.
Okay. Then is there anything, Patty, you want to do on financial reports for the general fire or building? They
No,
look fine to me.
I don't have anything. Kevin and I had a few things. We're gonna take a look at it when we get a minute sometime this week or the first part of next week, so,
Or maybe we after that.
or the week after that, maybe. We just don't know right now. But anyway, no, I motion to accept the revenue and expense report as submitted.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is investment report. Shelley did provide us the investment report. It obviously reflects the fact that we paid that first half of the Groveland Road paving project for next year now. And so the balance is a tad under 8 million, about 7 million, a little over 900. I don't think there's any questions on it. I'm sure she'll bring us up for whatever the next. Okay, next item, under public hearings, we have nothing for tonight. Under presentations, there are a couple of items I like to do this at the beginning of the meetings now. Obviously, sometimes we hear things that are either on Facebook or residents come in and ask questions. And a lot of times it's inaccurate information. So I just want to straighten out a couple of things here. First of all, some people have asked or been commenting on the dust or the noise issue from the ORV park. If you haven't already watched it, there are 2 videos currently running on YouTube, which you can watch on the township website, or go directly to YouTube, or even go to Facebook and watch them. And if you like the township on Facebook, you'll automatically get notified every time we cut a new video. But there's one that I talk about what's being done at the park with one of the people at the park. And then there's another one where John Noyes, who's been the principal contact from Oakland County Parks, talks about what they've got in the works. And for those of you who don't know, the park is going to be closed this year at the end of November. They're shutting it down, whereas it typically would be open in the winter, because they want to start doing the improvements. Actually, everything that we ever tested at the park over 6 years went off without a hitch, but sometimes you just don't know till you go live with the application and find out what happened. And that's really what happened on the first 2 weekends in particular. So they have had some dust problems, they've gotten it down significantly, but when they finish the implications or the improvements that they're making on it, it's on those videos that we're talking about. That should take care of the dust problem completely. And as far as the park noise, that's also on the videos. They're going to be setting up a testing stand. I went there not this weekend, the weekend before, where they got instruction from the people out from Silver Lake on the west side of the state. And now they all know the way to do the appropriate certified testing and what to look for on the machine. So we think those problems will be resolved for next year when they reopen. In addition to that, there's been some comments, I think, that somehow we're obligated legally to put our agendas and minutes out 2 days before the meeting, and that all of the attachments must be attached to them. That is not the case. That's not a legal requirement. We do try to put them out a couple of days earlier, but frequently we get agenda items, and this one in particular, three of the items, I think, came in today. So the agenda didn't go out until today. And all of the items don't have to be sent out in the advance notice. If there's something that's missing and you want to ask for later, feel free to ask for it. So I just wanted to clarify those erroneous comments that are out there. Next item is unfinished business. There's nothing on that, so we're going to move right to new business. And there are basically 4 items to take care of. The first one came to me, and I asked to put this on the agenda, and that is how we handle cost recovery for the fire department on medical runs. And I'm going to let Chief Mason explain that in a second here, but the process that's in place is worked, I think, pretty well. Would you agree, Chief?
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting necessarily that we change anything, but I did get a resident request, and I thought, since much of the board members are new and weren't here when we originally did that process, that we just need to decide if we want to continue with it. So could I ask you, Chief, just to briefly explain how we handle those requests for costs from people on
If there's a medical transport, when we do the paperwork and send it to STAR, the STAR will submit it to the insurance companies and request for payment. If they are a resident and STAR gets the insurance money, frequently they'll send it to me and ask for me to review it. And if we've got some money from the insurance company, if they're a resident, we'll write off the balance. Usually it's the copay.
Mm-hmm.
If the resident hasn't made any attempt to, give the insurance company name or things like that, I'll just send it to collections through STAR. But if it's a resident primarily, when we get the paperwork back and they say, here, send this to GTFD for review, if it's a resident, we'll write off that remaining balance, but not the whole thing, obviously. But
Yeah, and I think we do that frequently for a lot of people, because Medicare and Medicaid don't pay a set dollar amount anyway, whether they're resident or not.
But if they're not residents, I don't usually write them off.
Right.
Only the residents, because their taxes pay for part of this. And we've gotten into some arguments with neighboring departments or neighboring residents where they want it written off, and we provide all this service and then they expect to get it for free. So we'll send them to collections for that.
Okay, so I guess I'm asking, is there any discussion from any of the board members? Gina, Jim, Patty, do we want to continue with the process the way we've been doing it, or? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page because several of the members are new to the township board.
So I would say, personally, I have experienced that on more than one occasion. And I am very much in favor of leaving it the way that it is for the residents versus non-residents.
Does that sound good to you, Jim? Yeah, Patty? Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. This was done before a lot of you were here. Based on that, Chief, you know, there's one resident that had called me. Can I ask you to take care of letting them know that? Okay. All right. It's just a discussion item, and we've covered it. Next item is the treasurer transition. And I know Shelley is excused for some personal issues today, but Teresa, are you on the call? I think I see your name on there.
Yeah.
Can she? Teresa?
Yeah. Can you hear? Well, hold on a minute.
I can hear you,
We
yes.
can hear you. Okay.
Oh, you can hear me now?
I think it's important with the changing of the treasurer's position that you'll be taking over. And I know you've done a lot of work to talk to the various people involved in that to try and make sure we're in good shape for it. But there are some issues that need to be, need to touch bases on with Shelley before she leaves. And I wonder if you could kind of go over what some of those issues are so we can all agree that that stuff needs to be handled.
Okay, sure. These are the things that most of them are based on the auditor's recommendations that he gave us a couple of months ago. So in order to make sure that we have the best, smoothest transition moving forward, the accounts are supposed to be balanced and audited before being turned over to me. So I have a call in to the auditor, and he's supposed to return that call tomorrow to set up a date for him to come to the township and go over the accounts. I think he can arrange that with Patty, but I'd like it to be at a time that's convenient for Shelley during our regular work hours prior to, you know, the end of next week. And then I'm also going to need access to passwords and banking accounts. And since the treasurer is the keeper of the passwords, Shelley is going to need to authorize IT Right to change the contact administrator to me effective November 20th. So personally, I would like this notice to be in writing and a copy given to the supervisor. Okay. Also, most local treasurers have been uploading their orders and tax data to Oakland County for the tax bills to be printed. Today, Ellen from the county called to check on the status of our data. And since Shelley was not in the office, I put her through to Shelley's voicemail because I don't have the authority or access to any of this. So she wanted to find out from Shelley when Shelley planned to submit this information. The tax rates are already all set for the winter bills. And I know that other treasurers around are trying quickly to get their data uploaded so that they can get their bills printed and picked up so they can be sorted and folded before getting mailed. So I know Shelley has emphatically stated that she is doing her statutory duties. So I don't doubt that she will do this, but I would like to just stay informed as to when it is complete so that the residents don't have to be inconvenienced waiting for me to take office November 20th. Then two other things. I'm going to need a list of banks and contact persons to contact so I can begin to set up appointments and, you know, get them to be scheduled after the 20th so that we can switch the paperwork over and allow me to be able to sign checks sooner, pay bills faster, and reduce the possibility of any late fees getting added onto our bills, and we can save the taxpayers money like that. And then I'm also going to need keys to all the locking cabinets in the treasurer's office and extra copies of keys for the cabinets in the main office that we keep locked. And any keys given to the deputy treasurer, I'm going to need to give to my deputy treasurer when one is appointed. So those are the things that I think we need to be, you know, following up on, and they make sense so that we have the best transition possible for the residents.
I agree, Teresa, and I know we talked about most of those today. And I ask you to send an email and enumerate those points on there, and then just CC the whole board. And if there's any issues that need to be handled on that you need assistance on, let me know.
Okay, I sure will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from anyone else on the board, or no? Good. Okay. Next item is discuss college hunks hauling junk. That is not a joke. That happens to be the name of a group that the township attorney and our ordinance officer, Danielle, and I met with, because we've had a few places in the township where we've been trying to get some things cleaned up, and the people have been lax in doing it. And what ends up happening is, if we can't get them to do it, we try to get their cooperation first. We can't get them to do it, we have to go to court, and at that point in time, our township attorney ends up asking the judge for a decision to give them a specific date by which it has to be cleaned up, and if it's not, we usually get authorization to clean it up ourselves. What happens in that case is we bill the individual resident for those charges. If they don't pay it, we have to go through the process of putting a lien on their property so that when it gets sold, we eventually get the money back for the township. And we've had some trouble getting people to do those cleanups for us. So actually the best one we met with for this, because the one that our ordinance officer normally uses up in the Lapeer area doesn't really want to come down this far. So we met with, I'm sorry, I got to keep on looking at it. Was it College Hunks Hauling Junk? And they actually were quite professional at the meeting, and they've agreed to do it. It's kind of a ad hoc cost, because sometimes the cleanups are rather extensive, and it's hard to give a flat dollar fee for what they have to do. You may have to actually have a truck or a wrecker come in and pull some of the stuff out. So Will and I met with them, and I know today or the other day, the certificate of insurance would meet with them. So I think we should do a motion today to authorize hiring College Hunks Hauling Junk for our cleanup ordinance work. Okay, so that's my motion. Is there a second to it?
I'll support.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board?
Are they
Okay.
bonded?
I'm very sure. And that's a certificate that came today, and Will's comfortable with it.
Beautiful. Okay, and we're not contractually obligated. We just call them as needed.
Jerry will actually call them and get an estimate on the price, so we know what we're doing before we have it hauled away. And that's, as I said, in the event you can't get them to honor an order. So, yeah, well, if they don't pay it, it's put on their tax. Correct. So, okay, if there's no other comments or questions, then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That takes care of that. Now, this last item is something that, we brought up a few months ago, and,
You don't want a roll call for that?
well, we didn't actually spend any money on it, just hiring him as a contractor, really.
Okay.
It'd be when we get the money that we get billed, because they'll be different every time. I don't think we need. Next one is dealing with, if you recall, there was a salacious and very disturbing letter written some months ago, conveniently distributed before the election, and in a way that most of the township officers ended up getting it at the last minute, casting some very negative aspersions on the fire department and our chief. And so after talking to our township attorney, we agreed to have an investigative firm look into it and completely evaluate all of the issues in the letter. Now, I could start out by telling you that I know personally from 24 years of dealing with the fire department that most of the stuff I read in the letter was either incomplete, inaccurate, or downright wrong. But obviously not every single issue, because I'm not there every day. So we agreed to hire JDI Investigations to look into all of the allegations in that letter and determine whether or not there were any issues that the township needed to be concerned about. And I am extremely pleased and not at all surprised to say that after a very comprehensive analysis and dozens of interviews with the entire fire department, fire chiefs in the area, the fire marshal, and just about anybody you could think of, that they have come up and determined that each and every one of the 9 charges in the letter are without foundation. And just to tell you that here at the beginning, which is really disturbing, the report back though starts out that JDI was hired by Groveland Township Board to investigate an anonymous letter sent to the board members, candidates running for office in the upcoming election in the area of fire chiefs, and to the radio station WWJ 950 AM radio, which in my opinion did a terrible job reporting by inaccurately reporting the information before anything was investigated, and subsequently transposed words like anonymous with unanimous and did a terrible job on it. But at the end of the report, in the last page, across the whole thing. This starts in part here. That while the letter was signed by the Groveland Township firefighters and presented as a collaborative effort, it was not. Finally, the allegations listed in the anonymous letter have been found to have no merit and were clearly not sent by the Groveland Township Fire Department. This, in my opinion, puts to rest now the initial issue that the township attorney asked us to investigate so that we could say in good conscience, all of those issues were investigated. It was an extensive, it's about an 8-page report here, and had dozens and dozens of interviews. There is a second part to this because we have authorized the funds for doing this investigation on this letter, and they have completed that to the satisfaction of the township attorney as well. However, there's a couple of issues that they want to investigate further, which may help us identify the person or persons who deliberately sent out this erroneous and incorrect information. And I would like to ask the board at this time to approve continuing to let JDI finish the investigation on those issues to see if we can come up with conclusive information on who actually did this. So that's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Gina. Questions or comments from the board? No. No. Okay. If you take a roll call vote on that, please, Danielle.
Patty Mack,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
Absolutely.
Gina Mazzarelli,
Yes.
Bob DiPalma.
Yes. Okay, now I know we've asked the people from JDI to join us here today. Is there any comments that you would like to add to this? Because I'm just apprehensive to read such a salacious letter that I think was completely without any valid validity.
Yeah, go up there. We're gonna go set up a next to Bob and Patty.
I can just stand here.
Oh, okay. And Keith. Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to take your seat. Oh my.
No, go ahead.
Well, we want to begin by saying that when we began this investigation, although we were hired by Groveland Township, it's my company's policy, and I think Keith, who is my number 2 at my company, that at no time are we ever going to create a conclusion based on who hires us. We come from a long line with law enforcement, and getting to each and every interview, which is why it actually took longer than expected to get through the fire department and through some of the firefighters, because firemen, it was in the middle of summer. Firefighters are getting married. They were going on honeymoons. They were going on and having vacations. So we didn't want to rush this process. Basically, we waited for everybody to get back so that we could make it convenient and but also be timely. But we wanted to make sure every person that needed to be interviewed was interviewed, and it wasn't a half-baked investigation. If we couldn't find somebody, then we just took it as, well, that's not what happened. Keith did predominantly probably 2/3 of the investigation, working diligently. We interviewed people not only from the fire department that are current firefighters, but also firefighters that were past firefighters we didn't go back 20 years, but we went back almost at times up to 5 years. We talked to if the investigation led us to speaking with somebody who was told about the letter or who knew about the letter, those people were talked to, as well as fire chiefs from, I think, 3 to 4 different agencies. And so we really felt that at the end of this, and the passion from the fire department, from the Groveland Township firefighters that were, I don't know that I would want to put some of the firemen in a room with the person or persons who did this, because they're very upset. They're very upset that this letter was written and that somebody actually penned their name to it. So with that, in conclusion, what we were looking to do with this letter is to look at each and every point, each and every allegation. And we actually constructed a questionnaire. Keith and I went through the letter and we constructed a questionnaire because the mass amount of people that we interviewed, we wanted to make sure that each person was asked every single critical question, that we didn't miss a question and have to go back. So we gave them an opportunity to fill out the questionnaire and return it back to us before they were interviewed, or mail it back to us. Some people, we did not get 100% participation in the questionnaire, but I will tell you as an investigator, and he, I'm sure will concur, there are some people that are not good writers. And there are some people that do not like to write things down because they're embarrassed of how they write or their education or what have you. So for that being said, as we've done interviews for 60 years between us, it's not unusual that sometimes people just don't want to write down a questionnaire or don't want to fill it out. But with that being said, we were very consistent with the questions, with the points that were related to every issue in the letter. And I sit here and feel totally confident that the letter was not written by the people who it was penned that they said that it was written by. And so we are confident with that moving forward. We still have items that, or things that housekeeping that we could do to move forward to see exactly who would write this letter and why. In any crime that I think Keith and I have ever investigated, from a homicide to a sexual assault, usually when we interview somebody, there's always a why. Why did somebody do this? And I think that's the important key to making sure that this behavior doesn't continue. This was time consuming and even on the chief. I can't imagine to be the brunt of something like this. And the toll it takes, truth or not, it takes a toll on a person's family. So with that being said, we always want to make sure that the investigation is done completely and thoroughly, and we have nothing to hide, and everything was done according to how we would conduct any other investigation.
So, and as Jean said, as we looked into the why, we had those 9 paragraphs that dealt with specific allegations and conduct that we went through to verify, was there any criminal activity at all involved in that. We confided in 2 detective sergeants with the state police after we concluded our internal investigation to go over all that information to see if there were any statutes that may have been violated. So at this time, as far as any criminality, they have found nothing in there at this point. They have left it open so that if we have any other information to come forward with, they will take it and continue to look at that. But in our careers, as you know, criminal cases involve beyond a reasonable doubt. But there are things of circumstantial evidence that we went through and found that we felt very strongly, circumstantially, pinpoint author of that letter, but there is a lot of circumstantial evidence leading that report that we have turned over to the attorney. If you think of O.J. Simpson case where he was found not guilty criminally, but then tried civilly and found responsible for that, could that lead to something like this? That's not going to be up to us. We're just going to submit, as Jane said, to the township attorney, and he will have to review that aspect of the circumstances in regards to the author or authors of that letter. Good. All right.
Questions for us?
Thank you. And if there's anybody who still wants to contact us and give us or provide us any information, we are willing to accept those phone calls and continue with that. But I think the report is very sound, and we thank the Groveland Fire Department, the chief, of allowing us to have access to
Right.
everybody to speak to, along with the area fire chiefs who were very willing to speak with us in regards to Chief Mason.
I just want to make one point, if anybody in the community or for those in the community that are watching this meeting, is that when we began interviewing each and every firefighter, when those interviews were turned over, but the firemen that were interviewed were given a number. They were not, so if John Blow was interviewed, his name was not used directly in that report. And that was so that the firefighters felt comfortable being open, honest about the information that they were given, and that they, I think anybody who's ever employed in a job and who has to come forward and be asked some serious questions about their employer is always afraid of retaliation. And we wanted to make clear, as Keith and I have both done many internal investigations within our agencies, as well as I sat on the Personnel Appeal Board for Oakland County. I wanted to make sure that each and every person that came forward and talked to us, that they understood that that was confidential. And we told them the only way that we would be moving forward or have to use their names is if, for instance, we found out that there was something criminal that happened to them or that they knew about something criminal, then we would have to go forward. But beyond that, it was, like I said, people were very open. I felt they were honest. I didn't feel that anyone was withholding information, especially in some of the allegations. So I feel really confident about that this letter is was done for the reason. Right now we don't know, but I'm sure the timing of it in an election year was very coincidental.
Okay, thank you very
I
much.
think we're good.
I think we were, all right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. There's just one more thing I think I have to say. This reminds me of a saying I use frequently that says, "No good deed ever goes unpunished." And I don't know if all of you realize it, but through all of this turmoil with this letter, the fire departments had to have a very difficult time, as you can imagine, trying to make sure it could stay staffed adequately for the COVID virus. And because sometimes people couldn't make it because a spouse was going to work and the other one had to watch the kids because the daycares weren't open, or somebody might have been exposed to COVID somewhere, so they were off for a period of time. And for those of you who don't know it, Chief Mason never complained to me. And I'm not wrong, Kevin, but I think John pulled a lot of extra shifts too with you.
He worked a lot of hours, but he worked pretty much 8 hours every day.
So, and I know that Chief Mason has been working 90 and 100-hour weeks for longer than I care to remember. Now, it's kind of gotten better as things have gotten a little bit squared away now, and he's kind of back to his regular shift, but he did that for weeks while all of this was going on top of it. So for those of you who know Kevin, Chief Mason, I think you know that he is an honorable man who cares very much about the fire department and the people here. So if you get a chance to see him on the street, I think it'd be nice if you gave him thanks for a job well done, and that we're behind you because he's done an outstanding job during some very harrowing times because of some ne'er-do-well person or persons who seems to like spreading wrong information to try and stir up things. So that's the last thing I have to say on it. If there's anything else anyone on the board wants to comment, now would be the time, or we'll move on to the rest of the agenda.
Yeah, I want to say something. I could probably talk a half an hour on this. I can't second enough what Bob said about Kevin. Over the years that I've known Kevin, and more particularly in recent years, the amount of time this gentleman puts in associated with the township and specifically the fire department is absolutely commendable. And as it relates to this letter, you know, I'm usually good with my vocabulary. The best one that comes out, this is simply a despicable act. And I'm thrilled that he's completely exonerated by this, by the investigation. I'm sorry. So thank you, Kevin, for everything you've had to endure and continue to do for us.
Thank you. Okay. I don't mean to cut you out, Kevin. Is there anything you wanted to add? Would you like to say?
Same thing. Thank you, Kevin. I'm glad that this part is done, but I'll go on record as saying I'd love to put those people in the room with the firefighters.
It's like, okay, well then we'll,
Good job,
well,
Kevin.
great job, Kevin, thank you. There are no resolutions for tonight, and maybe that's because half the offices around Metro Detroit are closed, but there's no resolution tonight. So the next item is miscellaneous reports, and I know typically Holly will be done by Shelley, but she's not here, so I think we'll pass that today. Do we have any?
Yeah, BGYA, we've got a couple things going on. Parenting the Woman Way. You can register at the Brandon Library. Dates are Mondays, February 22nd to March 15th, and it's from 6:30 to 8. Of course, it'll be on Zoom. I'm not sure what format they're using, but it'll be on, virtual meeting. And then there's suicide prevention virtual training also. This is Thursday, November 12th or Monday, November 16th, 6:30 to 8. And also register at the Brandon Library. You can call to get the details. I think these were advertised also in the Citizen, if I remember correctly. Also, I don't know if anybody knows Kathleen Lease, but tomorrow she's going to turn 102.
Wow.
So happy birthday to Kathleen, if anybody's watching.
Wow.
Put that as a sign out.
She's having a drive-by
I
in
don't
town.
personally know her, yes, but they are. having a
We need to recognize that not many people make 102.
No, I mean, that's great.
She's the oldest person in Groveland, that's for sure.
Wow,
Yeah,
That's great.
that's all I have for BGYA.
okay. Anything, Jim, from the planning commission?
No, we did not have a meeting.
Okay, and BZA, was there anything?
There
No?
was no meeting. No.
Okay, I got a few things for the supervisors report. Unfortunately, for those of you who don't know, our planner for the last several years has been just a wonderful guy named Ben Tellerico, and unfortunately, his cancer has gotten much worse and spread to his. And so on Wednesday, I have a meeting with new people from the consulting firm to see who our new rep will be and go over some of the pending issues. So for those of you who are wondering why it's taken us a bit longer to get the master plan that we all worked on and have all agreed on printed, it's because of Ben's health issues. And unfortunately, it's taken kind of a step for the worse. So we're sorry to tell you that. Our prayers are going out for him, but we will be meeting a new planner on Wednesday. And next item I want to report on is the continuing saga of the sewer project. If you recall, when George, the supervisor, and Holly and I started, we had an original estimate of $6 to $8 million, and we thought we could pull that off with 4 prospective customers that were going to spend almost that much anyway for the sewer project. And then it went up to 10 to 12, and then it went up to about 19. And last week, we had the conference call with the interested parties along Dixie Highway and the townships. And lo and behold, it hit 100 million. So, I don't know what to tell you, but their analysis was that it is feasible on a per REU unit. So I have asked the county to provide me the REU calculations for each parcel they think in Groveland would be affected by it, so I can determine whether or not I think it's solid. And I've also asked them for a preliminary estimate on a standalone treatment plant for the property that the township has at exit 101 on Grange Hall Road, because I intend to look at it very hard. And both George and I have made it clear, there's no way that Holly Township or Groveland Township is going to sign on to a $100 million debt. And then if anything goes wrong, instantly bankrupt both cities or townships. So just to let you know, that's continuing to plod along. I don't know where it's going to end up, but we'll let you know at the end. I also sat in on a very interesting call for the farmers in our community last week on a program that's acronym is MAE, I think AP, and it has to do with farmers getting certification that the way they operate their farm is environmentally good to the land, and a lot of times they don't know, there's no cost for the program, and they get a signage that they can affix to it. I'm waiting for a list to come back from the people that put the program on of any potential candidates that we have that may be working on it within Groveland Township, so I can talk to them. And then when I get done with that, I have a videotape. We'll put it on the YouTube channel, and it's about 8 minutes, I think, and it explains what the program is. So there's more to come on that as soon as they get back to me with the rest of the information. The other thing I wanted to mention is No-Haz was a great success this year. I dropped off in each board member's mailbox a packet of the results for this year. In about another month or so, we should be getting the contract for No-Haz for next year. And I just wanted you to have some advanced information on it, but it's pretty well received. And the last thing I wanted to mention to you is if you were one of the people like me that got the letter from the drain commissioners in Oakland County about the Patterson drain, I put together a little video that's running on YouTube now again, and Facebook. And so you can get it on the Township Cable channel, you can get it on Facebook, YouTube, but it explains that Patterson drain process and the history behind it. So I thought it might help answer some questions for other people as well. That's all I have for supervisors. Anything else you want to report, Patty?
Yes, let's talk about the election.
Okay. Like the whole world is now.
Oh, I know. So, we counted 1,949 AV ballots, and they were counted here in the township.
That's a record for it.
That is a record. I think for the primary, we had 1,047 or 56, who's somewhere in there. So we did that, and the turnouts were really pretty well. Precinct 1 had 527 voters. Precinct 2 had 641, and precinct 3 had 781. Those were for the precincts, the people that walked in to vote that day. The overall turnout was for precinct 1 with the AV ballots and the precinct, people that voted in person was 65.5%. Precinct 2 was 63%, and precinct 3 was 75%.
Wow.
They were also out there during the primary.
3 is which one of them? Is that the one over there?
Fire Station 2. Yep. So I want to thank the firefighters. We'll talk about the fire station. They helped tremendously by schlepping all our equipment around and helping out. We can't thank them enough. We really appreciate it. I'd like to thank the election inspectors. These ladies and gentlemen did an awesome job. The COVID along with it, they were sure things got wiped down. They kept their masks on. It was just, it's a lot of extra work with what they had to do. They did a great job. I want to thank especially Janelle and Danielle boy, the couple weeks leading up to the election, let me tell you, we were lined up, steady, you name it. We managed to work out, getting ballots out to everybody and also doing the best we could with the every daily today issues in the office. So thanks you girls.
Did a great job on the election day.
Yes.
You know, all of you did.
Also, I wanted to let it be known, I don't think people knew this, the write-ins were tallied at county. We just had to send our receipt, our tapes down there, and they were tallying them. I did talk to the county today. They are not done with the canvas, so I have nothing there to report. And most of all, I want to thank the residents. They were all very patient. When they came in here for absent voter ballots, when they called, I looked out my window several times and everybody was doing their best to distance. So our residents are the best. Thank you. I also want to say that today is Danielle's last night going to be taking our minutes. Thank you, Danielle.
Just for a minute.
Just for a minute.
Just for now.
She's staying with us. We're not having any transition. But Janelle's going to be. And Janelle, we look forward to seeing your minutes. And that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you. Well, Treasurer's not here today, so we'll leave that. At this point in time, I'll open the floor to any questions from the audience. So anybody on Zoom, if you have any questions, the mic's activated now. Yeah, okay, the mic should be activated. If you have a question, feel free to ask it right now. We're all staring at the computer. Oh, there's a lot of people inside now, but we can't see them, so.
Yeah.
Anything at the bottom?
We have a chat. Congrats, Gina, on grandma.
Oh.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Anybody else?
If for any reason you've tried to get in and some reason you're not able to do it, don't hesitate to call us tomorrow. We'll be happy to try and answer any questions for you then too.
And I just want to remind everybody, the office will be closed on Wednesday, the 11th, in observance of Veterans Day. Thank you, veteran.
Patty?
Yes.
We could not hear why Dan was no longer doing the minutes.
Say that again.
We could not hear Patty explaining why Danielle was no longer doing the minutes. It was all broken up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here.
Janelle is going to become the deputy clerk and she will be doing the minutes going forward. Danielle is going to lighten her load a little. She's got a lot with the building and planning and zoning. Was that better?
She'd actually like to see her.
Yes, yes. Danielle is amazing.
She wanted to see her family.
She's not going anywhere. She's just going to be
Poor
able to go
girl had
home.
to bring it with her to poor kids.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if not, I move that we adjourn and reconvene for the fire board meeting. Is there a second?
Support.
Any questions or comments from the board? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, we're done with that meeting, and Chief, we're reconvening for the fire board. It's your meeting. Thank you. We did the roll call. So
Gina said aye. Probably gonna come through in like 5 minutes.
Can't share. I don't know what I am.
Bye.
You got the little
I
kids
think
chair
I'm gonna be
tonight.
in here tomorrow trying to figure out the chairs. Oh, you got to move up. I couldn't do that.
For
Thank you
October,
very
we had
much.
69 calls, very light month for us. Last year, we had 86 calls. The year before, we had 62 calls, so it's not crazy off. Brings us to a total of 669 for the year, which is a very light year for us. Last year, this time, we had 842 calls. Some of the things I'd like to talk about today is, I'd like to, as you know, we bought a fire truck here, I don't know, 9-10 months ago from RepoCast, and we had to jump through the hoops in order to get it approved it last minute. Well, last month there was another fire truck for sale there, and I had asked for $5,000, and it was approved. Same way, went through via email to everybody. We missed out on that because it sold for $7,000, and it was worth. When we looked it up on the internet, it was selling for $33,000 other places. So I'd like to get a pre-approval. So if we come across another one of those, we don't have to go and jump through hoops on like Thursday afternoon in order to get people to respond by email. I'd like to ask for $15,000, and we don't have anything in the works right now, but if it pops up, it seems like we find out about them at the last minute. So, and if we do, if I do find one, I'll talk with Bob and the people in the office probably about it beforehand. It's not like I'm gonna willy-nilly just buy anything in there. It's specifically for another fire truck. So I just like to see what the board members think about that.
Is there money left in the current budget under equipment costs? Will we cover that money?
We have $20,000 in there.
It's not been used yet.
And that has not been allocated yet. Wrong sheet.
Mine's here, Jim.
I got it. Yeah, we spent $900 out of equipment
For
purchase.
most of that stuff.
And honestly, I don't even expect to be able to buy one before next year, but they just pop up once in a while. I just basically, rather than jump through the hoops and
And just for the people that might not understand, the reason is when they show up at RepoCast, they close their auctions on a Thursday night, I think. It's frequently not coincidental with our meetings because they're usually Monday night.
Right.
So what we've had to do to be able to allow them to bid on them is send out a blast to everybody on the board and ask if chief can bid on it at that time. So that's why he's asking if you can have the blanket approval.
Right. I don't know about buying a truck. I'm okay with it.
Well, as long as you
we
understand,
got it.
this is the one thought we had about, well, should we just leave it the way it is till the next budget comes around and make it a regular budget item to discuss? I don't have a problem with doing it out of the 20 you got, as long as you understand that's the money we'd be using between now and the next budget.
And I'm
Is that-
guessing you're not thinking it's gonna cost you.
no, I just
Buy one.
wanted, it's like
Just
this
like-
last truck, I would
Instead
have,
of bid $8,000, maybe
I
we
would
got
have,
it, yeah.
I would have gone $10,000 on that last one, but we don't bid on very many things there, and the worker there, he says fire trucks usually go pretty cheap because no one can use them.
Other
Apparently
than
someone could.
a fire department.
Yeah.
So, it's not like you're buying, a tractor trailer or something like that, something similar to use, so.
And
Okay.
based on the success of your last purchase, I can totally support that.
So are you making the motion?
She is.
Sure, I'll make a motion that we can pre-approve for the chief to spend up to $15,000 for the purchase of a new truck, should he be lucky enough to find another great one on RepoCast.
Existing capital for equipment.
Okay,
Is there a second?
I'll support it.
Patty, okay. Then, Danielle, can you take a roll call vote on it?
Sure. Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Peter Mazzarelli,
yes,
Bob DiPalma,
Yes?
Patty Back.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Ladder 1 is still out for repairs. They contacted us last week, and the projected amount to cost raised from $7,500 to about $10,000, because I didn't know that a radiator for a diesel ladder truck is going to cost $3,000 to repair. So it's either spent.
You can't get one pre-assembled.
So just in order to save money, actually, he says that one was pretty rotted out. He said if you put it back in that leak, you'd have to take it all apart again, so we're incur even bigger costs. We discussed it with Bob. It really didn't have a choice, but so that bill is probably going to be somewhere around $10,000, obviously more than I wanted to spend on. We just sent Alpha 41 in today for developed a code for the turbo. We brought it to Mad Diesel also. He's going to check it out, see what's wrong with that. We had 3 covert transports in the last month. 2 from, I believe 2 from Groveland and 1 from Springfield. Obviously, we decontaminated the trucks after that. But
Can I ask how many we had during this COVID thing before this?
as far as we know, we only had one other one.
So it's
but
definitely picking up.
Yeah, but we don't, these are confirmed COVID cases because the patients knew this time.
Oh.
The other ones, they could have been COVID, but we just didn't know. So,
Okay.
I would say from what I know is that it was very few before.
Okay.
We have the new phone system installed at both stations. Part of it was the costs we're going to claim on the insurance. The other, station 2, we're obviously paying for ourselves. And we were trying to wait for the new station to be built to switch out the phone systems. I'm glad we didn't, because it's a lot clearer now and you can actually hear things. So we're still setting up voicemails and things like that.
So you're ahead of us today. Because our
Yeah,
system
I
working
think you
very
gave
good
us
today.
your problem, because today I'm like, huh?
And we actually sent, I can put E2, it's actually E1, is down at LTM for lightning related repairs. We've had a lot of ghost electrical problems with it. One day the lights don't work, the other day the ladder rack's not working. So we called E1 on that and they said, ooh, that's an old truck. Basically, yeah, we're not helping you. So LTM is taking a look at it now. We called them today. They said they don't have anything for us yet.
Okay.
That's a truck repair company. And that's all I have. And I'd like to
Chief?
thank, go ahead.
Did I hear we got hit by lightning a second time?
We did, we think we did anyway. The only thing it took out the second time was the radio. And we sent our radio down to, I think it was Adam Electronics, and they're looking at to see if that's worth fixing. If not, they're gonna try and find us another one, but the county came up and swapped out the radio, and it was transmitting, it just wasn't modulating, there's no data on it.
Was that
So-
second lightning struck
Do we have-
also what hit this E1?
No,
That's
E1
completely separate, isn't it?
that was the initial one. It just took longer for the problems to develop.
Okay.
We had some problems that we thought just was normal
Oh,
maintenance.
okay.
And then as they started adding up, it's like, wait a minute, this,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
It's like Alpha 482.
I misunderstood you. I thought that happened with the second.
Right.
Apparently we do. It takes it right to the power.
Yeah.
We've checked the
You need to
antenna.
move it.
We actually think it came in on the power system because that's what everything was affected by. And the antenna and everything was fine. It's just, you'd figured that would burn that out.
Yeah.
And, it's for the fire department. We're glad that the investigation's over with and we can move on, frankly. That was causing some morale issues and, people were upset that people were putting words in their mouth. So I was happy for all the support that I got from my people.
And they rallied around you very nicely.
And we're able to keep it together, fortunately.
No.
Oh,
That's Gina. Something else there from the board? If not, any questions from the audience? Again, if for some reason we can't hear you, don't hesitate to call us tomorrow, or you can call directly to the chief and ask him what the questions are. Okay, if there are no other items, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion to adjourn, please.
By Jim, is there a second?
I'll support.
By Patty, okay. Any other questions or comments?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned.